Good morning, and it's Lilia from Heal Scotland and Scotland's Wild Medicine here. And today I have a female Wim Hof instructor, Victoria, with me, and I'm just excited to dive in and talk to a woman who's done all that training with the master and to tell us how you see it from a female perspective. Thank you so much for joining me
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, Lilia.
and for coming to the festival. It's just absolutely fantastic. I'm so grateful to all the people that are coming and giving their time and like me, just desperate to get the message out that about how powerful we are. Now I know you don't just do the Wim Hof method. Like most people now, I think you do about a million courses. I know you're a hypnotherapist as well, but
Yeah.
can you just start by telling us what took you on that journey into more holistic ways
Mm,
to look at the body?
totally. So at the beginning of my journey, it was probably around almost 10 years ago now, and it was finding out that I was pregnant for the first time that kind of sparked my awakening, if you like. And on reflection, I've seen more that that's probably been due to the fact that I was sober, like drinking and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Sober, so you've got the chance to sort of sit with yourself and go, something's not right here. I was very angry, anxious, depressed. I had all these, really intrusive thoughts. So that was the first sort of moment that I decided, right, I need to go to the doctor. I need to speak to the doctor. There's something wrong here, and I need to help myself because I've got a child coming into the world. And just to create a little bit of context around about that story, my mum passed away when I was 8 years old. So bringing a child into the world was something that was really kind of strong for me to be healthy because I had to be here for this child and all that type of stuff. So I went to the doctor, and yeah, the kind of typical response was, we can either put you on these tablets or you can go on a waiting list for 8 to 16 weeks, and then eventually you get to speak to somebody. And that was fine. So I tried the waiting list because I just knew deep down I didn't want these tablets. I'd heard about people speaking about being numb, and I didn't want to be numb. So eventually tried with the doctor over and over again, and I just kind of got nowhere. And that's where I found hypnotherapy. It was my cousin who had been for a stop smoking session, and she came to me and said, this guy deals with grief as well, why don't you go and see him? So I had my first session, and it just uncovered so much about myself. I hadn't been expecting it. You think of hypnosis and you think of like Peter Powers or Darren Brown or something, but it was lovely. Just went into this guy's house, very relaxed. I could hear everything. I was still very conscious. But what we unravelled was suppressed emotions. So, I hadn't been able to deal with the grief of my mum. I wasn't able to articulate this out loud, the anger and things like that. So it really uncovered, suppressed emotions of guilt, which I hadn't been expecting. I didn't think that I felt guilty over my mum's passing, but here, this is what the subconscious mind shows to us. We think consciously that we know what a problem is. So I'd had about 5 sessions. We dealt a lot with the anger, the grief. I had really low self-esteem. It uncovered a lot of stuff that had happened in my past as well, brought up a lot of kind of trauma, but I was able to work through that using hypnosis. So from that moment onwards, that sort of sparked my awakening to kind of study this stuff. I thought, wow, like this is incredible. I'd lost friends to mental health and addiction and things like that. And I remember thinking, God, if only maybe we'd known about this a little bit sooner, like we could have maybe prevented it or whatever. And I just started going on this mission to study the subconscious mind. I started studying neuroscience, hypnosis, meditation, just really getting quite in depth into it. But it wasn't until lockdown that I actually had the opportunity to study as a hypnotherapist. I'd lost my job, like many others, during lockdown. And my hypnotherapist came and he said, I'm doing these courses. Do you want to join on? I'll let you pay it up. And it was just phenomenal. It was the best course ever. And because I'd already been studying this and really interested, it was just amazing. And then the point came where I got my diploma and I had to do something with it. And that was the kind of point where I was like, oh, and all the limiting beliefs come up. I was like, oh my God, like you used to do this. And now you're coming out as this hypnotherapist who's going to take you serious. And I remember thinking, right, practice what you preach. Just if you don't try it, you'll never know. And that was it. And it just kind of started to snowball from there. I started working from home, taking on clients. And through this journey, I had, layers and levels, as you know, with awakenings. It was just like kind of uncovering one thing after another. I went on a journey with like plant medicine. I started working with psilocybin, and then that led me to ayahuasca. ayahuasca was just phenomenal. Yeah, there's so much that we could speak about with my own personal journey, but it was during lockdown that I found the Wim Hof method, because I'd started meditating, and the Campsie Hills are just right across from me. I used to go there all the time as a little girl. It's just somewhere that I found a lot of peace and comfort. So I was up there meditating, and something was calling me into the water. It was the end of September, and I had never heard of Wim Hof. I just want to point this out. At this point, I'd never heard of Wim Hof, but obviously subconsciously I've been watching people, like cold water dipping, because it become quite popular. So I get into the water, that was fine. I just burst out laughing. So I was by myself. I was sitting with this woolly hat on, my underwear, in this water at the end of September, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, you've just lost the plot. And I get out of the water, and I was phoning people, and I was like, you'll never believe what I've just done. But it was that kind of moment of being like, I was so like inside of myself, like really consumed by my feelings, to then being like so free and feeling, euphoric and like, oh my God, like just totally like out of that space. And it was telling people about my experiences. So like, yeah, have you never heard this guy Wim Hof? He's crazy, does all this stuff. And I was like, no. So I started to kind of look into Wim Hof. And I was just mind blown. I was like, whoa. And I remember thinking, when I was watching people get into like the waterfalls when it was all icy, I was like, no, that's not for me. Like, a wee cold water dip in a pod outside's plenty. But yeah, so what had happened was, in 2022, we sadly lost my dad through alcoholism. So that was a massive blow. And through that, I decided to go and meet Wim Hof. I took myself off to Holland and just wanted to meet him, because I'm a very analytical person. So when I see people, on the BBC, and I see this and that, I'm like, what is the story behind this person? I like to be in somebody's energy field to really kind of read them and hear from them. So I went and met him, and it was just incredible. When you meet Wim, or even just listening to him, but when you meet him, he has such a passionate heart about humanity. All he speaks about is about the freedom and health and healing ourselves, and that the land is free, and just all this wonderful stuff. And I remember thinking, you're the real deal, like you really are like the real deal. And all the instructors there were just so beautiful. It was amazing. And I spoke to one of the instructors, and I was saying, I'd love to do this, but again, these limiting thoughts, I was like, nah, you'll never be able to do this. Like, you need to have had all these years experience, like training, like getting up Mount Kilimanjaro, just did all these different things. But they were like really encouraging. They said, just go home and sign up for it, just go and do it. And at this point, I was still working obviously as a hypnotherapist, but I had my cold pod outside. So people were saying, can I jump in the cold pod? And I was letting them, but there was a part of my mind that was going, like, what if something goes wrong and I can't deal with it? Or like, people were saying, like, how does it reduce inflammation? How does it help with weight loss? And I'm thinking, I don't know, it just makes me feel good,
Yeah.
So I need to be able to actually guide people in a better way, give them a better experience. So I went and I done the Wim Hof course, and it was just phenomenal, the stuff that you learn. But it's the master module, when you go in person to go and kind of do that, that's where I just took so much away from that. Again, that within itself is like an awakening. You're doing all the breathing, you're with the other instructors, and yeah, it's just been phenomenal. So that's just started to kind of grow and grow and grow. But yeah, that's where it all sort of started.
Well, that's what's amazing, about Wim Hof, because obviously when they started measuring him in the university, going, you're a freak of nature. And he was like, no, everybody can do this, because he knew that that was true. And I met him down at Wim Hof at the Russell Brand
Yeah,
Community Festival. He was just unbelievable, because all he's shouting at you is, you are powerful, wake up. And he doesn't care about the money. They've got him in a wee bit of a business frame now, but he doesn't care. He just loves singing, getting people breathing, and it's so the power of it, because he's done it. He can regulate his own systems.
yeah,
He understands the science now, which he probably didn't understand before they started measuring him, because they didn't really believe what
yeah,
he was saying. And now and every time you go, that's the great thing about going back to a super brand like he is that you're getting the latest information, the new cutting edge. It gets updated. It gets, you just find better ways to hone it into, to make sure that people are getting the huge benefit of it. It's certainly, as soon as I did his breath work for the first time, and it's still one of my favourite breath works. And last year at the festival, I think everybody still talks about that experience, about the collective Everybody just breathing at the one time. And humans just stop and fighting for a minute. Just lie down and let's breathe together. Not bringing anybody down, no judgment, just get in there and let's just see what we're capable of. And it's so powerful. For anybody listening to this, either live or on replay, if you've not tried it, please come along to one of the big beach breathes, either in Tarbert or in Skye, and experience this for yourself. It is so, so powerful. And it's so simple.
Yeah.
People want to, and the problem is obviously when you become a super brand, you've got to be careful, follow the rules, which he really is not a rule follower like me. It drives me mad. What about this? You need to do this. And it's, no, you don't.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. But you have to have that balance because people will come after you because they think you've got money.
I know, and this is whole thing, isn't it? And it's like trying to kind of tear something down that is completely free and so empowering and so unique to the individual, because like you're saying, come and experience it, because this isn't something that anybody can tell you what it's going to feel like, what it's going to be like, until you have that experience with yourself. It's very, very difficult to understand the power of it and the power of what you are capable of. I remember before I started breathing in a certain way, I remember thinking, I don't get it. I just didn't understand it. I was like, how? And then I had that first moment, that first breakthrough with the breathing, and I was like, whoa, that was unbelievable. I'm unbelievable. And there was just so much more, and it's always something that you can come back to. Obviously you get like the health benefits of it, reducing inflammation, boosting your immunity. It's fantastic, the energy levels that you get from it, but just the emotional side of it as well, what you can actually release out of your physical body, it's tremendous.
It really is. And I started doing it kind of long before it was really popular. I don't know, 7 years ago, when I'd heard his name. I bought a book. It wasn't actually written by him, it was written by somebody else. And I watched, you could glean a little bit of information. You couldn't really get the whole thing. And I've done yoga in India, the Himalayas, all this. And I never really understood the breath. I'd never really felt any great difference, regardless of all the different kinds, until I did his one. And, I've done it at different festivals as well now, and in group settings. And, what is amazing is you're maybe only doing it for 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. It's not something that has to take a great big long time and then boom, in the ice for a couple of minutes, or even 30 seconds if you want, back out. You're going to have a phenomenal chemistry change. And also I think, I know when I was making myself get cold at first, I still hate the cold. People think I like the cold. There's nothing could be further from the truth. I like being warm. I like hot countries. But when I knew I got postmenopausal arthritis, and I knew instinctively, intuitively, I was called to it, even although it was my worst nightmare, the idea. And I would go in that sea down at Ardishig, and you'd hear me screaming with the pain of the cold. I lived in Malta. I was used to, the water being 26 degrees. And I just somehow made myself do it. I was doing a course in neuroscience actually at the time, and it was quite simple. Keep doing it until the body stops resisting.
Yeah.
It's become a subconscious behaviour then. You become cold water adapted. Yeah, you get a feeling, so what, big deal. You ignore it. Because you understand. And even Andrew Huberman's the latest research about how when you make yourself do something you don't want to do, how the brain expands. And it's just like, it's so fascinating because every day you're learning something new.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? I remember the first time that I ever took a proper ice bath. I had that experience up the campuses, and then I got one of their pods. I thought, right, I'll do the 30-day challenge, and it was the middle of winter by this point, and it was freezing dark outside, and I've got videos on Instagram. I could not get past my waist, and I just remember, because I didn't know how to breathe or anything like this at this point, and I remember thinking, no, how do people just get in and put their head under? Like, how is that possible? But like I said, the adaptation of it, when I look at my own personal journey from back then to where I'm at now, it's just so different. But as you say, I still don't, I'm the same as you, love hot countries right now, like the heating's on, like I've got my jumper, I love to be nice and cozy. but it's that adaptation and we're able to overcome it. And this is what you're training your mind to be able to do, is to deal with larger amounts of stress and be in control of that stress. And that's what I love about it, because when we're under so much pressure in this world, you know, so many people are dealing with anxiety, you know, chronic stress, to be able to have a tool, you know, every day that's teaching you how to breathe in a certain way. It's so simple and it's free. And especially in Scotland, we've always got access to the cold water, even if it's just through the showers. You know, we've always...
Exactly. Because even in Malta, you can't get a cold shower.
Yeah.
The shower's always lukewarm, you know. So we are so lucky here that we have access to that, and we have such... I don't like cold showers. I'll be upfront and honest about that. I would much rather be in the sea or the river or the loch or the canal or somewhere outside.
Yeah.
You know, when you're kind of... I did it the other day, actually. I was at my pal's. She's got a sauna in her house. And I was in the sauna, and then I went into the cold shower, then I went into the bath, then I went back into the cold shower. But I can't stay there for long. It's like, oh my God, I'd much rather just be sitting up to my neck like this, allowing it all. So I take my hat off to people who are, you know, do the cold showers, because I think it's actually more hardcore.
Yeah, definitely, because there's an element of it where, you know, the conscious mind really can't switch off. I think when you submerge, you know, you're able to get into that sort of meditation, really focus on the breath. But when you're in the shower, A, you're standing up, and B, you have to keep...
That's true.
Yeah, you know, so it's difficult. It took me about a year to really get into the showers and incorporate that into my daily routine. I just love, as you, like, similar to yourself, I love nature. Waterfalls especially, you know, we had this kind of weekly routine of going up into the waterfalls and just releasing everything that we'd taken on. You know, we'd be up there screaming, like really like roaring, like just letting it all go and take it all in, and we'd leave in the Sunday afternoon just like, whoa, I'm ready to take on the week ahead. You know, just it's just beautiful.
The extra power of the moving water and hitting the rocks and the positive and negative ions, and just the sheer energy. Yeah, it's fantastic. So do you combine your hypnotherapy, and do you combine the two things?
Yeah, so I get all different sort of types of clients that come in for all different things. When I'm working a lot with either athletes, they like to use hypnosis with the cold for their performance. And then I get a lot of people that come in with anxiety and depression. So we use the hypnotherapy to explore the emotional content from the past, find the suppressed emotions and clear a lot of that. And then we use the cold to work on the physical aspect of it. And then again, just further this mindset training. You know, it's something I always say to people, do it every day, you know, when possible, but really see it as, you know, if a doctor had prescribed you an anti-anxiety tablet or whatever, you would take that religiously. And it's the same as the cold, you know, every day, just commit yourself, because that's one of the pillars of the Wim Hof method, is the commitment to yourself and to the practice. So allow yourself to engage in that, especially on the days where you really don't want to do it, you know. So
yeah. Exactly. It's funny because this winter I went through a kind of phase of, I mean, I was in probably 2 or 3 times a week, but normally I'm in 6 or 7 times a week. And I could feel aches and pains coming back into my body. So for me, it's definitely about maintaining the health that I have and keeping the chronic pain. You know, in my kind of paternal lineage, there was arthritis and rheumatics, as they used to call it. And I'm just like, I'm not having that. I know there's things I can do to prevent or minimize that. So that's 100% why I do it. You know, it's not for... And I'd have to say, when my young friend died at the end of last year, I actually was using it for my emotional, for the grief. And that's actually the first time I've used it for that. Although when my mum was dying, I would go in, I would just go and chuck myself in. So I suppose there was an element of managing that. But yeah, when you're in that deep, deep pain, she was only 23, and there was just a lot of, you know, it's like, it was so painful. The cold again, just like
yeah,
balance this out.
Gives everything a chance to... The way I sort of visualize it in my mind is the chaos within the mind. It gives you a chance to settle that down and reorganize things. You know, just let your body catch up, just let everything reset itself. And that's why, you know, I always see it as a daily practice. No matter where I'm at in my life, it's just something that I'm committed to every single day. Just as you say, for general health, just to keep everything ticking over, just to rejuvenate everything as well. And also the emotional, it really does, it serves people well for the emotional aspect of it.
Absolutely. And there's so many physical, you can't... That's the thing, we try and separate everything up. You you're going to feel better emotionally. That gives your immune system more power. Everything, is either going up or it's going down, the whole system. So,
Uh-huh.
it's, certainly you can turn on a tap, and in most places in Scotland, you'll not be that far from a river or
Mhm.
something. I went into the water over in Dalkeith Park and caused a wee bit of a stooshy because I get changed in the car park and I didn't realise all the surveillance cameras were watching me. But also the guy said it's really polluted, and I was like, well, everywhere's polluted. I guess some are more polluted than others, but the farming runoff and and the mining as well, apparently. But I said, you know what, I can't really let myself go there with the pollution because it's the cold I'm going in for. I'm only in for a couple of minutes. I'm not putting my head under, so not
Mm.
there. I always put my head under in the sea. I love getting my head under. It's like
Yeah.
having a shower and not putting your head under. Sometimes you do it because you can't be bothered sorting your hair, but
Mhm.
most of the
Just
time there's nothing better than just the whole body
yeah.
immersion.
And when we start to look at like the whole being that we are, physical body, but then also the energetic body as well. The cold and the water in itself is clearing and cleansing all of that. And this is still something that's quite taboo. It's still quite like classed as woo woo. I know that obviously we can speak about it, and a lot of people that will be joining in this, and they'll be, used to this sort of kind of chat, but it's still quite unusual and uncomfortable for people to speak about this. But it's just part of who we are, and the more that we accept that we are layers of a being, the easier it is for us to be able to heal those different layers, and bring in different aspects, different elements, because there's not a one size fits all. It's just, it's about how, as you say it all the time, feeling how you are in that moment and what you need in that moment. And some days you might need a bit of dance, you might need a bit more emotion, you might need some music, you might need like the water more, it's different every single day.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the whole thing. And that's why I ended up getting this biofield viewer so that people can see the electromagnetic side of the body because it's invisible, not to everybody, but to most of us. We don't believe that that's a part, that energy comes in through
Mm.
these centers and affects the organs underneath. And that's the emotional side to disease.
Mhm.
And, we can see in that technology whether the energy flowing through the kidney, for example, is is affected by a physical thing or an emotional thing. And
Mm.
then you can look at, and arguably everything starts off with the emotions in the mind anyway, even the choices that we're making. So the root cause can inevitably be way down there, and something that we've thought, something we've believed, or something that we've brought in ancestrally as well, or something that we've chosen to experience because we need a wee bit more understanding around it. So
Mm.
yeah, that's the multifaceted, and that's what we want to do at the healing centres, the pop up healing centre in the Sky, is to really demonstrate the multifaceted being that we are, and how all the things that you can do.
Mm.
And I think the most exciting thing right now is the sound healing, and the frequencies of certain sounds that can digitally feed the body all the things that they need, that we need, the body needs. And when you do that enough, you're going to have a really phenomenal response to it. And, I've spent so much time trying to get people to stop eating white flour and bread and sugar and wine. And nobody wants to give up any of that stuff, but everybody can go, well, just let me listen
Mhm.
to beautiful music, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
it's something that's for everyone. So listen, and so you work one to one. Do you work in groups as well? Tell us about your actual business, how you do it.
Yeah, so I don't do so much groups. I do the workshops for the Wim Hof. I do the fundamentals workshops, and that's kind of the only sort of group sessions that I hold at the moment. A lot of it is just one-to-one sessions. So I've got my clinic in Kirkintilloch. So people come there and it's equipped, it's got the area for the Reiki healings and the aromatherapy and also the breath work, but I've got the ice bath and I also use the infrared sauna as well. It's phenomenal. It's amazing. I didn't realise actually, and I'll be honest, when I was setting up the shop, it was the ice bath, and I thought, no, add that in because it'll be a nice contrast for folk. So that's when I started to educate myself on it. I thought, wow, we really don't know enough about this.
We had one in our gym 20 years ago in Glasgow. But again, we were just way ahead of our time in terms of frequencies. It's
Yeah.
only really now that people are going, okay. And
Uh-huh.
I love any sauna or steam, to be honest. I like sweating
Yeah.
without doing any exercise.
So it's incredible. So yeah, a lot of one-to-ones that I do. I just do a variety of things, predominantly hypnotherapy and the Wim Hof method, and that's combined. And then the breathwork sessions and the studio space there. It's great.
Right. So you've got your own studio. Is it
Yeah,
in town?
yeah. And then also I go out, so I do work out with the clinic. I work a lot with like athletes, mostly boxers. So I go into several boxing gyms and I do the breath work with the boxers, do hypnosis. I go to some of the fights, some of the shows, and just do a bit of hypnosis before the fight starts, which is great.
Oh,
That yeah.
right. Well, that's good that that's getting recognised, that, you know,
Mm.
it starts and finishes here, doesn't it, really?
And then the whole breathing aspect of it. I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of professional boxers that don't breathe correctly. And then as soon as they start to breathe, they can experience how much it's, improving their performance.
Exactly. Performance related. I don't know how you don't. But again, we think because we live in this world that everybody understands breathwork, but it's still just a niche part of the population. That's why we need to get it out to the masses. That's
Ah,
why we're having these phenomenal events with all you guys coming to support and help us.
yeah.
So, listen, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you. It's in 2 weeks.
I
2 weeks
know. I'm
from
so
the start. I know.
excited. And really, anybody that's listening, please come along because the breathing is just going to be phenomenal. And also, we've got the ice baths as well. We're doing a nature dip as well, so we're going to be out in the loch doing that. But it's just going to be absolutely phenomenal. Last year was great, so yeah,
I
come and
know. And if anybody that's listening that doesn't want to come to the big event, you guys are going to be around. You're happy to take one-to-ones or
yeah,
bigger, smaller groups. So
yeah,
whatever you need, just
yeah,
get in touch and we'll make sure that it happens so
yeah,
that everybody can get the best experience that they need to get high on their own
yeah.
supply.
That's something. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Okay, darling.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a million.
Okay,
Chat
thank
to you soon.
you. Bye.
Ciao now.